All right, so we are doing Parashat
Vayeira.
Okay. Parashat Vayeira. There's a lot of beautiful things and hints that are going in this parasha, especially with the name of this parasha. We spoke about it last week. We said that this parasha is really a continuation of last week's parasha, or both of them are one section together, which is really the life of Avraham Avinu, or the essence of life of Avraham Avinu. Of course, we have to we have to remember that the Chumash of Bereshit, Sefer Bereshit, doesn't really come to tell us the biography and the story of Avraham Avinu, the person. You know, he was born to here, and he did this, and in the morning he got up to here, and etc., etc., etc. What that section of Avraham Avinu's beginning of life is already mentioned in Parashat Noach. That he was born, and just like that was basically it. And of course, that the end of the life of Avraham Avinu doesn't come further on in the parasha, or next parasha, which is Chayei Sarah. Then we saw where Avraham Avinu basically died. So in between, we have this gap that talks about Avraham Avinu, but a certain section of his life, which relatively speaking is not that long. However, what those two parashiot really deal with is not with the story of his life and the decisions that he made and so on and so forth, but rather his path in emunah. And I'm a little hot, so, and I like to use the word path, because it reminds me of the Japanese concept of do, the way of. Like karate do, kendo, and so on, the way of. And it's a very interesting concept to learn, because lehavdil in Judaism, being that Judaism is an Eastern religion, there is such a thing, and this is the way of Avraham Avinu in the emunah, his progress in the path that he took in the journey of emunah. So we go in the beginning of the journey, and then towards the end of the journey, and then yes, in between he was born, and yes, after that he died. But the most important thing is this journey in emunah, the way of do things, and that's very interesting to understand that concept of do, the way of. Because many times in the West we do things without any, just because you do it, so therefore things look like that. There is a certain way to do things. There's a certain way of progress and development and so on and so forth that needs to be done, and we, for whatever reason in the West, don't do it. Recently I came, I paint, or at least try to paint. I don't call myself a painter, so there's something very significantly different between Eastern, Japanese and Chinese painting and Western painting, wherein the most significant thing, at least to my very insignificant opinion, is that in Western painting, you always draw the outline and then you fill in the, in between the lines, the colors and so on and so forth, where in Japanese painting or Chinese painting, there's no such thing, there's no outlines. It's just the brushing of the strokes, it's creating images without an outline, using more of the space. So for example, when you were a little kid, I'm sure everybody told you, make sure that there's no white, fill up all the things with paint. And in Japanese, the white is more important, the spaces are more important than the actual paintings, the actual paint that you put on. So it's the space, because it gives you movement and dimension and so on and so forth. In Western art, a good student will be a student that will do exactly the opposite of what he was asked to do. And in Japanese art, you'll come in, they'll tell you, paint this bamboo, and you do it for about 6 months. All you're going to do is just paint thousands of bamboos. You need to have the technique in order to create that freedom. Judaism in a way, kind of lost that beauty where we create very defined lines and we try to fill in the gaps in between rather than create those free-floating images by strokes of the brush without any outlining. And that is very important to understand what Avraham Avinu did here and the origins of Judaism and how it really is. And that's the way of Emunah, the path of Emunah that Avraham Avinu took. And it's very, very, it's just simply fascinating. We know that Avraham Avinu started his path of Emunah, as we spoke about it last week, when he talks about, when the Parashat says to him, Lech Lecha. And that's Lech Lecha, that's the Emunah. He says, I'll protect you, and so on, right? Remember? HaKadosh Baruch Hu will protect you. And Avraham Avinu goes. And this week's Parashat, there's also, again, the Lech Lecha, but Lech Lecha in a different thing. And then at the end, HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, Ata yadati ki yareh Elokim ata, and so on and so forth. So, of course, the Lech Lecha is the first Lech Lecha, where HaKadosh Baruch Hu tells him to go. He doesn't really grant him the title Yareh Elokim. However, what he does in the Akedah is ultimately Yareh Elokim. HaKadosh Baruch Hu tells him, Ata yadati ki Yareh Elokim ata. The concept of Yirah Bichlal comes all together in this parasha a few times. Whether it's the name, the hint, Vayeira, so Vayeira also is there, and we'll see further down also what he's really talking about. In the first Lech Lecha of last week's parasha, when we spoke about Lech Lecha el haaretz asher areka and so on, and Rashi explains over there, Lemani tav lecha, so it's good for you, and he promised him, and I will be with you, and so on and so forth. But that's the first stage of Emunah of Avraham. And then still he was not really Avraham, he was still Avram. Later on he gave him the hey over there. We could look at it and we could understand it as Avraham's awareness of the relationship of HaKadosh Baruch Hu to him. He understands HaKadosh Baruch Hu has a certain relationship with him. I will protect you. Okay? Go because it's good for you. I will protect you. So it becomes, hello Yossi, you just missed a small lecture on Japanese art. You have to catch up to this. I'm sure you'll appreciate it. So he's aware that HaKadosh Baruch Hu protects him, and that's a part of the Emunah. You need to understand that HaKadosh Baruch Hu has a relationship with you, and you have a relationship with HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and that relationship, like any other relationship, and I think this is that was a nice car. That was the model, or the rubric in which we try to handle any kind of relationship. If you would understand how you relate to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and what's the quality of a relationship you have with God, you'll understand how in any other relationship you follow the same pattern. So if you have a problem with the relationship with your wife, or you have a problem with relationship with friends, or with co-workers, or with anybody like this, don't try to tell me that you have also no problem with HaKadosh Baruch Hu, because you have a problem, and everything stems from that. Amen. It's a nice bracha. Well, Baruch Hashem, somebody says a bracha, so I can say amen to. Thank you. I appreciate it. Come more often. So, and of course, in the second stage where, or the other frame that we have in this so-called movie, when we see it just the other way around, we see how Avraham Avinu understands his relationship towards God. The beginning was God to him, and now he towards God. And of course, as many times we could say, that's the difference between lishma and shelo lishma. And lishma and shelo lishma, especially the concept of lo lishma, is such a bizarre concept in Judaism today, because it's became so Western. In order to really fully understand it, you got to go to the East. You really got to go to the East and understand. You too, Yossi, you have to go to the East. You really have to understand that for that. I mean, and as I explained to you, in painting, in Japanese painting, or in Chinese painting, or in Oriental, mainly Japanese and Chinese painting, when you paint, the expression of the artist would really manifest itself more, but how much he or she are able to leave themselves out of it and present the object in which they're painting in the most artistic way, but the way they are. Where in the West, that's why you have all this abstract painting and so on and so forth. The object is not so much important, more as the expression of the individual himself. I always had a problem drawing abstract. I like to think abstract, but I don't like to draw abstract. So, I don't know. Maybe it's because I'm from Asia. However, we have to, so since we spoke about Yirat Elokim, about the concept of Yirat Elokim, we have to mention that the concept of Yirat Elokim appears twice in our parasha. One time at the end, where it's Akedat Yitzchak and the whole thing, and the other one is also when he meets Avimelech. Avimelech, the king of Gerar, and Avraham says to him, and I'm calling ki amarti rak ki en yirat Elokim b'makom hazeh v'hareguni. In this place, we'll see exactly what it is. There's no God-fearing in this place, and I'm afraid, and therefore I'm afraid they're going to kill me. That's why I lied and I said she is my sister, where she's actually my wife. However, it seems that in this form of Yirat Elokim, in the case of Avimelech, we're referring more for like policing kind of an apparatus. In other words, in the Torah, when the Torah says "Vayavi oto lifnei ha'elokim," right? It doesn't mean that they brought him in front of God. They brought him in front of the Dayanim, instead of Shoftim. In other words, important people who sits in judgment. So, in other words, there's no such functioning in this place. So, as later on as the Tana says, if it wasn't for of the awe of kingship of Malchut, ish et re'ehu chayim belawi, we will swallow each other up alive. If there was no law and there was no order that which we buy in terms of society, we don't have the self-discipline to live in such a thing, so therefore we will eat each other. So that's why one of the reasons the Jews, that when we live outside of Israel, we say, and we should say, a special bracha, a special blessing for the government of the place that we live in, for them to create orders and law and order. Otherwise, it will be a completely chaos, and we are grateful for that. So therefore, we say a bracha for that as well, and that's called morat malchut. But this kind of yirat Elokim, as we say, is more of like an instrumental type of a thing that we needed to fix a society, to have a functional society, to protect the person. In other words, for the needs of the person, which is correspondent with the first Lech Lecha that we said beforehand. It's for the needs of the person, and that's a very interesting concept that I'm trying to introduce to you. How you interact with God, and the most basic thing to interact with God is through your needs. I want something to the functioning of Hashem. I'll do so Hashem will save me. I'll do so because He wouldn't punish me, and so on and so forth. And as I said to you then, and unfortunately I had to say to somebody this week, he said to me that he really tried very, very hard. I told you today, he tried very, very hard to believe in Hashem. And however, every time he did something, Hashem punished him, even if he did something good. So I said to him, I really believe that you never really had emunah in HaKadosh Baruch Hu, if that's the way you had it. Your emunah was only dependent on what you're getting, and that's not really emunah. That's not really belief. That's not emunah. So comes the Torah and tells us, wait, one second. So this is what Avraham Avinu was Yireh Elokim about in terms of of having a police and constitution. By the way, guys, don't forget to please vote no on opening the New York Constitution. Yes, don't forget, vote no. Don't open the Constitution. It's not good for us, especially if you're a teacher. So, so here comes the Akedah, the story of Akedat Yitzchak, and tells us that is something completely different, since it's appearing with its relation to Avraham Avinu, when HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, "Ata yadati ki Elokim ata," which is the same Yirat Elokim. However, this Yirat Elokim, which Avraham spoke to with Avimelech, is just the complete opposite of what HaKadosh Baruch Hu is giving the title to Avraham Avinu here. Here, Avraham Avinu is not talking to a foreign king. That he needs to explain to him exactly what does it mean. For a foreign king, for a Gentile king, he needs to explain it, and he uses terms which he could understand. Okay, what's Yirat Elokim? The fact that you have laws and there's no laws here. I was afraid that they will kill me. That's why I did what I did. So he's explaining to him. But rather here in front of us is very important, is how man stands in front of God. This is the whole essence of Sefer Mesilat Yesharim. This is the starting point, which really follows the Rambam's attitude, Chovat ha'adam be'olamo. What are you obligated to do in this world? How do you stand in front of God, not how God stands in front of you. There's two Sfarim that are completely opposite. In one hand, you have Chovat ha'adam be'olamo, which is Mesilat Yesharim, and then you have the complete opposite, how God interacts with the world, which is the Sefer HaTanya. Complete opposites. Complete opposites. Mesilat Yesharim, as I said to you many, many times, if you follow the Mesilat Yesharim step by step, it is a guide, a Jewish guidebook for Jewish enlightenment, to reach enlightenment, Ruach HaKodesh. So it is not just a Musar book, is a hand guide for spirituality, or manual for Jewish spirituality, or Jewish enlightenment. And the Yirat Elokim that, of course, that we are talking about here has nothing to do, the Avraham Avinu in the Akedah, has nothing to do with reward and punishment. And it's a tremendous new concept in the world. We're doing things for a different reason. Lema davar domeh, lehavdil. Imagine a guy is a businessman, and his wife is a real balabusta. She holds a tight ship over there, She tells him what to wear, where to drop his socks, and so on and so forth. She runs a very tight ship over there, right? Of course, God forbid, she, what time you finish work? 5 o'clock? Okay, 5:01. Honey, where are you? And then, honey, are you on the train? She knows exactly where he's coming. He comes home, she opens the door, Kol Tov Yafeh, and he's of course afraid because he cannot do it. She's his wife, and she will sue him because her father has this nasty lawyer that's going to skin him alive and then sell his skin for chandeliers. So of course he's a good boy. He would never, ever dare to do anything outside of their relationship with his wife. And he would swear that he's loved his wife, right? And she's a kind of a woman who would sit there and says, you can't eat your meat, no, you can't have any pudding, right? One of those people like that. Of course, one day he gets a conference in Las Vegas. And you know what happens in Vegas besides shooting, right? Whatever goes in Vegas stays in Vegas, right? And ketov libo bayayin or by whiskey, he does whatever he does because nobody would know. Now, does that call love? No. There's no love there ever in that relationship. Ever. Love, which is really the end of what I want to tell you towards the end, has nothing to do with reward or punishment. You could be in the middle of, I don't know what. Whatever. A place for good girls will have no effect on you whatsoever. You can take a book and read because you love your wife. So, as much as trees in a lobby of a hotel will not bother you, that will not bother you. I don't recommend you to do that, of course, regardless of who will catch you and who would know and who would not know. If you truly love your wife, you'll stay loyal to her without any fear. And that is something that I'm trying to tell you, because we always translate the concept of Yirat Shamayim as the fear of heaven. And that is true and not true. Because Yirat Shamayim will be the fear of heaven for the first kind of interaction. Gemul ve'onesh. What do I get from it? What I don't get from it. Hashem will punish me. Hashem will not punish me. I'll go to Gehenna. I'm not going to go to Gehenna. If I go to Gehenna, how long will I go to Gehenna? This is not. So I'm going to be a good boy. I will be a good boy, not to do the bad things, because I'm afraid of that. That's the fear. But there's no love there. So we need to really see what it is. So here he comes, and by the way, as you could see, that the concept of Yira'at Shamayim really goes hand in hand and kind of blends in the concept of Ahavat Hashem, loving Hashem. And when you do things I only do things so HaKadosh Baruch Hu will help me and make me richer and wealthier and more powerful and so on and so forth, you don't love Hashem, you love yourself. There's a guy who stands in front of the mirror and sings "Love to Love You, Baby." You only love yourself. This is Donna Summer, for those of you who don't know. Alea Shalom. You love yourself. You don't love anyone. So here, on that, Rabbi Akiva himself, Rabbi Akiva says, to what level it is? Afilu notel nishmatcha, even if he takes your soul. For example, a person is about to die. My father died 2 months ago. Right? 2 months ago he died. He died a year exactly after they started his chemotherapy. A year to the date he died. He suffered. I never heard my father saying, "Why is HaKadosh Baruch Hu doing this to me?" My father never complained. Why is this happening to me? Why HaKadosh Baruch Hu is doing it to me? The same thing with my grandfather. My grandfather suffered. My grandfather's last words, Hashem berach et Avraham bakol. I was blessed. That was his last words. So afilu notelet nishmatcha, even if he's taking your neshama, you know you're going to die. My father knew he was going to die. My father knew he was not going to make it. You know how it is to live. The doctor tells you maximum you're going to live 4 months, 6 months. So he lived a year. But you know that every day that passes by, it brings you closer to where you don't want to go. I never complained. So afilu noten nishmatcha, Rabbi Akiva says, and this is the commandment of HaKadosh Baruch Hu to Avraham Avinu. Kach et bincha, take your son. You know what it is to take your son? A person would say, "Take me, don't take my son." And not only he's not taking him, you're going to take him. It says kach et bincha. All right, it's like he's taking his neshama. He's taking Abraham's neshama. And not only in terms of the relationship of his father to son, because that's his only son that he really loved. We're not even talking about this kind of relationship. Baruch atah Adonai B'Olam Shakon Yarivaro. Amen. But also in terms of the doubt that Chas v'Shalom Avraham could have to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, because HaKadosh Baruch Hu said to him, "Be'itzchak yikareh lechazera." He's going to be your offspring. He's going to inherit you. And now you tell me to kill him? What kind of a God are you? He never says a word. This is an unbelievable statement that Avraham is making, but not saying anything. So And the Medrash, of course, tells us that Avraham Avinu could have said, and I'm quoting, אתמול אמרת לי כי ביצחק יקרא לך זרע, והיום אתה אומר לי, העלה לי לעולה, and today you're going to bring as a sacrifice. And not only that, if you look at Sdom and the question of Sdom, and all those righteous people over there in Sdom, we learn that Avraham Avinu is not short with words. He can claim to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. He can say, wait, oh, rega, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And he says to him, Chalil alecha, hey, you shouldn't do this. And only here, when it's something that is really connected to the bottom of his existence, to the bottom of his heart, he doesn't say it. I mean, from here you could understand why he was able to argue with HaKadosh Baruch Hu regarding Sdom, and why he wasn't punished for it. He wasn't punished for it. And it says, because over there, it says, Hashofet kol haaretz lo yaseh mishpat. Kadosh Baruch Hu, you are all about judgment. So we know that the argument of Avraham Avinu is an argument of justice, of tzedek. And the same thing, and you could see that the same thing applies to what's his name, Avimelech also, because he says to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Hagoy gam tzadik ta'aro. But this acceptance of taking your son and bringing it because HaKadosh Baruch Hu told you, that's called shlemut ha'emunah, a complete emunah, a perfect emunah, without any kind of questions and doubts in it whatsoever. And Avraham is not talking. He gets up in the morning, early in the morning, Vayashkem Avraham ba'boker, Vayachbosh et ha'chamor, hamor, chacham u'moreh rabbanan. Yes. Vayachbosh et ha'chamor. Of course, on that Chavishat ha'chamor, the Abravanel said to us something very interesting, which is, he says, Kavash et ha'chomriyut shebo. Chamor milshon chomriyut, materialism in him. In other words, he put all his materialistic, all his earthly urges to the side, and he allowed the ruchniyut of the emunah, the spirituality in his belief, to overcome his rationale, his needs, and so on and so forth, his fatherly instincts, and so on. And of course, if you remember when we started that, the first siman in the Shulchan Aruch, right, is commends a man להתגבר כערי לקום את עבודת הבורא. In other words, this is all inside of us. We have the guys, and what are we really doing? Do we let our urges, our fears, to stand in the way of our emunah? Do we deliberately arrest our emunah, but not setting our spirit free in terms of putting it in the hands of Hashem? Are we evaluating this at all? Lack of evaluation of your interaction with God would would arrest your development. How do we stand in front of God? Do we include God in our lives? Do we include Him in our decision making? When we make decisions, are they, as I told you many times, are they God-based? Are they Torah-based? Or they are individual, selfish-based? I mean, if you believe in God, you understand that you have to do a certain hishtadlut, you have to put an effort, but ultimately it's all from God. But you don't really believe in that. And for that we have to, and I said to you many, many times, emunah milshon imun. Imun is to train. You have to train yourself. You're never born Baal Emunah. You have to train yourself. You have to bring it on the table. And you have to ask yourself your questions. And then the question is, why am I not working on my emunah? Why am I so afraid? Why do I let this dark materialistic urges in me, those powers in me, to overwhelm me? What's stopping me? And don't forget, those obstacles that you put in your emunah development will be obstacles that would be there in any other relationship in your life. and will arrest your development, because if you know that you have the abilities to go, for example, let's say you are a Navy SEAL. So if you are a Navy SEAL, you will go to BUDS, right? And in BUDS is a very difficult training. One of the reasons for this most difficult training is to let you know that if you survive BUDS, you could practically survive anything. Because you have the ability. You did it. I know I did it. I had a friend that one time he came back from a training mission, and I won't say where, outside of the borders of Israel, into a hostile territory. He came back. They were exhausted. Him and his crewmates. There were a group of 4 people. There were more, but they came to our house, mamash, maybe half hour before Shabbat. They lived in Israel. They laid on the floor. They couldn't move. They were exhausted. I said to him, Habibi, what happened? You guys, you half dead. You're all exhausted. They were sleeping, I think, before they hit the floor. And on the floor. There was no bed on the floor. So my friend told me, he says, we just came back from there, and the end of the mission, we had to cross the border, carrying a stretcher with a big fat guy on top of it for 80 kilometers in a desert, in a hostile area, in a hostile territory, in a hostile country. It's a different country. They'll catch him, they kill him. They'll be tired. We haven't had sleep for a few days. So you know you can do it. I said to him, why did you do it? He said, so we'll know that if God forbid this will happen to us, we know that we have the abilities to carry somebody for 80 kilometers. We did this already, so we can do it again. If you know that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is there because you work on your emunah, you have nothing to be afraid of. If you have nothing to be afraid of, you have no obstacles. You practically can do whatever you want. You'll be successful in anything you do. So therefore you see from here that the key for lack of success is lack of emunah, Rabotai. One of the best investments that you'll have in your life is to work on your emunah. But truthful emunah, because it needs to be done, not because I want to get sachar. The same thing is coming to learn Torah. I'm coming to it because I need to learn. Torah v'alai lilmod. There's Torah and I need to learn. The reward and punishment is for those who scrape the bottom in terms of their emunah, development. If I'll do so, Hashem will do this, and so on and so forth. And that's giving Hashem all these attributes that are not really so found, especially in the eyes of the Rambam. It's taking God and actually, God forbid, downgrading Him and giving Him human qualities. We should not, God forbid, downgrade God into a human. We should elevate ourselves towards Him. And do we do that? Now you understand there's 2 different types of yirah. So yirah could be of fear, and yirah could be of love. Yirah mishum lirot, ani roeh. Vayira'eh elav, yirah, yira'eh. It's all the same thing. But you choose what it's going to be. You choose to see God, or you choose to fear of God. Shabbat shalom.